8 years ago, when I first started making videos, all my viewers had only one question: when will Trump be gone? And I always said the same thing: Trump will die when the dark age of Kaliyug dies, and not before. Kaliyug dies this year, 2025, and Trump with it. The date for the end of Kaliyug came from Maharishi just before he left the earth, and he gave that information to those who are leading the movement now, the Rajas. And then Raja Peter gave it to me. But Trump and the fall of democracy is a small piece of what is about to happen to the world. Not only will democracy fall, everything is going to fall. Trump is insignificant. I just remembered economist Richard Wolff also said Trump is insignificant. But he was talking about the Trump problem compared with the death of the American empire, where we fall behind the world leadership, and that leadership goes to China and BRICS, economic leadership. And Dr. Wolff is worried about the future only of economics. I'm talking about something much bigger: the collapse of everything in the world and the coming of perfection on earth to replace it. While Steve Schmidt and Keith Olbermann and the Midas Touch and all the rest fret over Trump and their loss of their precious democracy, the worst form of government in the world, fretting over their capitalism-based economy, their slave-based economy that we've had since Columbus and his idea to enslave the weak people for profit, all the natives he found here. And that's still going on today in a different way. Our country was built on that foundation. And now this country will reap what it has sown. The old world will fall in order to make way for the new world. You have to sweep out the dust from the house before you bring in the new furniture. This temporary period of chaos was predicted by Krishna 5,000 years ago and by his contemporary Markandeya. Krishna said, 5,000 years from this day, there will come a golden age. And he said the new age would be preceded by what he called pralaya, a period of chaos and mass destruction. Markandeya said the same. The day Krishna made this promise was the day he died. And that is the day the dark age of Kaliyug began. A few days before Maharishi left the earth, he gave the exact year, 2025. In the dark age our planet is in now, everything that is good is considered bad, and everything that is bad is considered good. Everything is turned upside down. Low souls, dark souls, incarnate into earth and violate civil law and the laws of nature. This dark age is supposed to last 432,000 years. We're only 5,000 years into it. So we have 427,000 years to go. Actually, Sattyug is not due for another 4,724,000 years. It usually lasts for 1,332,800 years. But this coming Sattyug will be a shorter Sattyug of 10,000 years, but with a chance of extending it to the full length of 1,332,800 years, and a chance to even make it eternal. That intervention will save this planet from destruction. It will save us from the unsolvable problem of global warming, from the storehouses of nuclear weapons, and from Putin's bombs, and all wars, all disease. Maharishi said this golden age is called Sattyug. It's a mini Sattyug which will last 10,000 years. The spiritual atmosphere will be so overwhelming that not everyone on earth who's here now can live in that rarefied atmosphere. They'll simply disappear. And if that sounds like a miracle, it's only a part of the picture. In Sattyug, what we call miracles will happen constantly. They'll be natural and accepted as part of daily life. This shift, though, will begin with the fall of Trump. The weakness of the Democrats can't overcome Trump. They had plenty of opportunities to get rid of him, but sat on their hands and handed over the keys to an insurrectionist felon. And the rest of the world is astonished by this. This is part of the insanity of the Democrats. What caused this epidemic of insanity? Part of it, actually, is the rise of purity on earth as we approach the golden age of Sattyug. As order increases, disorder also increases. This is a law of physics, and a law of thermodynamics, and a law of spiritual transformation of a planet. The pralaya. Another part of this effect on the mind of the populace was the introduction of genetically modified food into almost all packaged food. Soybeans and genetically modified corn syrup in what the nation eats and drinks. Maharishi called it poisoned food for poisoned brains. And the cases of Alzheimer's, senile dementia, skyrocketed 10 years after GM foods entered the food chain. And it's almost in every packaged food. Poisoned food for poisoned brains, Maharishi's words. And he knows far more about the laws of nature than the scientists who work for Monsanto. So we now have dementia and insanity taking over the minds of the population. That should be obvious by now. This has made the MAGAs more violent and the Democrats more dull. Trump's destructive acts will become so overwhelming that the military will have to intervene. They'll have no choice. That will be when Rahu changes signs in May of this year, and he becomes a threat to the whole world. Right now, Rahu's place allows him to be a threat to the nation, and that will change in May, and he will be a threat to the world. But by then, a military intervention will be too late. The generals sat on their hands too. They eat the same poisoned food that everyone else eats, unless they're all vegan, dull and lethargic. By the time they arrest Trump and all of his minions, the earthquakes will have begun, and the earth will shift on its axis. Coastlines will sink into the oceans and will destroy all of the old world. Washington, D.C. will be no more. Only 1 out of 8 will survive this transition. Only the righteous shall survive. And then, like a bolt of lightning at midnight, Sattyug comes, and heaven will descend to earth. Buildings will vanish, and the world will become a beautiful garden where all of the survivors will be one with God, and miracles will happen at every moment. We'll have reversal of aging and physical immortality. Maharishi told us that every desire will be fulfilled there, that those desires might seem impossible, but you'll have it. He said, what is about to happen will be beyond human imagination. This golden age will last at least 10,000 years, and it's possible it will last forever. This is not channeled information. Stay away from channelers and their spirits. I didn't predict this, but I've seen glimpses of it, and the experience was far more real than what I experience right now. These promises came from the gods who walked on earth during the ancient enlightened Vedic civilization, and written down in historical records that are still existing today. The timing of this event was for our generation, foretold by Krishna and Rishi Markandeya, but Maharishi was more precise. His Holiness Maharishi Mahesh Yogi said it comes in 2025. He also promised the fall of governments, mass destruction, big earthquakes, and people going insane in the streets just before Sattyug comes. The fall of governments is here. He was correct about that. So he'll be correct about everything else. I've seen it, and you'll see it soon enough.